Everybody, this is Perch. This is one of those ones where I really don't know sometimes I ask a question. Well, many times viewers listen to videos and they ask me questions, and I try and pose them and answer them. I try to leave the door open that you can give your own opinions and tell me what you think. In this case, I'm asking the question. I really don't know the answer to this. This to me feels like I can't put it together. I just don't understand. I like to kind of think about user behavior. I like to think about why people do the things they do. I'm sure in some other life I was a psychiatrist. I think that, but this one doesn't make sense to me. And it's basically this. So you got to work with me here in the logic. This is kind of one of those. If A is true and B is true and A plus B is true, then you know what I mean. It's like a logical problem like that. So right now we have printed comics. We have Marvel, DC, Western Comics, Image, these books. And for many, 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 many decades, the superhero genre was dominant. But if you go back even further, you definitely had horror, you had mystery, you had romance, you had a bunch of other things. But for a while, superheroes have been dominant. And then in the, about 12 years ago, a little bit more, the superhero genre crossed over into the movies and it became very dominant. And right now, as I speak, I think Spider Man No Way Home, is that what it is? Or No Way, which Spider Man is it? Spider Man 3. Tom Holland's Spider Man 3. It's out and it is making a ton of money. Like it is raking it in. And people are going, wow, I can't, why did they? Must be Tom Holland's charm, or it must be that people are just fed up with COVID and they're wanting to go to a movie. And I mean, sure, maybe those things are all true. But also, people like superhero things, as it turns out. You gotta, a Shang-Chi made good money. It didn't. It wasn't a $1 billion film by any stretch of the imagination, but coming out in COVID with an unknown character is extremely niche for Marvel, and seemingly didn't have a lot of other connections into the MCU and all the rest. I mean, it did great. Eternals, I think less so, but I mean, like Eternals, it's lucky that made anything. I mean, honestly, Black Widow made money, and it was delayed for a year, and like the character's dead. People like superhero movies. Okay, over in Japan, manga has a lot more differentiation. You have all kinds of slice of life and horror and romance and yes, superhero and all kinds of stuff. And they figured out a way to kind of diversify what they do, and everybody still makes money. But in comic books, Western comic books, superhero is quite strong, and there's a model to superhero that's quite strong. That you can do a lot of books. I think the '90s showed us this, where you could kind of run the same formula and people will buy it. Meanwhile, completely separate from everything I've been talking about, you got Webtoon, you have Tapa, you have digital comics that are not printed comics, scanned and made digital, but actually digital first, digital only. They're comics that are being produced there. And if you go and you look at Webtoon, what you will find is a lot of slice of life, a lot of romance, a lot of YA type stuff. You'll find a lot of books like that, and it's doing very well. There's very little crossover between those two audiences, and that's kind of the point I'm about to get to. But Webtoon content is very successful. It's read a lot. You can see a lot of views. You can see a lot of engagement. Lots of people are there. Completely different people who are doing the printed comics, but lots. The business model, the revenue, the how these things make money is completely different, entirely different than what you got in mainstream in Western comics versus Webtoon. Completely different models, both viable, both doing different things, both they have their audiences. So I'm getting to my question. Right now in Western comics, there's a number of comic creators who are writing stories that when you read it, it feels like a Webtoon kind of plot. The characters are having lunch, there's some drama. It feels like the writer is doing everything possible to avoid superhero action storytelling. There's a lot of kind of emotions, characters talking to each other, feelings being expressed. Not that those things were never in printed comics. Of course they were, But if you read them and then you just take out the fact that you're seeing, the New Mutants or the Justice League or whatever it happens to be, you kind of take out those characters, you would swear you were reading something on Webtoon. You would swear you're reading one of those things for that audience. And you kind of even get the feeling like if you took this comic and again you got rid of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, whatever else, and you just inserted kind of random people drawn in a style, comfortable for Webtoon, then it would probably do well there. Take the Unbeatable. Was it Unbeatable, Uncancelable? Which one was it? I forgot now. The Wasp series that came out. If you removed the references to Hank Pym and everything else, and you just had this scientist girl who could shrink down kind of a bug-like costume, and she had a group of friends, if you took that exact comic, which sold terribly in printed, Western comic channels, LCS, but if you took that comic and put it on Webtoon, is that Guru Hero art? I mean, the art was solid, but it looked like Webtoon type art. I'll bet it would have done incredibly well. Maybe not incredibly well, but well. It would have been strong. It would have fit right in. That audience would have eaten it up. So here's my question. Why do writers, more than artists, but why do writers go to write Western printed comic books, get paid nothing? I mean, you're lucky if you're working at Marvel and they're coughing up $60 a page for you at that with that level of character. If you're working for the indies, much less. Why are you doing that when you could take your same story, same concept, same pitch, same idea, do something on Webtoon Tapas, and likely do much better? Have more engagement, have more audience, have more people saying, hey, I mean, and maybe even make more money. Granted, the money is very different there, but potentially at least setting yourself up to benefit better financially. Why? Now, I know I have one theory, and the one theory is a lot of the writers who are doing this in Western comics aren't very good writers. I'm sorry, just a lot of them are not great. If they go over to Webtoon, they take their style of storytelling, and suddenly they're having to compete with 200 other people, maybe 2,000 other people who are telling a similar story. But some of those people are many of them maybe, are better at doing it. And so where they can bring their wares to, say, Marvel or DC and kind of run this thing, they won't stand out if they're doing webcomics. Whereas they've got kind of a captive audience with Western comics. I don't know. That's one theory, is that they just know they're going to get outcompeted in a place where they're going against people who are doing the same thing. But is that the answer? I mean, to me, I'm a big fan. What I like to call is avoid friction. So in your life, if you are trying to kind of whatever you're doing, trying to do your job, draw a picture, get food, I don't know, whatever you're trying to do in life, you want to try and steer away from the things that are making your life more difficult. And if you're trying to take the square peg of slice of life and cram it into the round hole of, Marvel superhero comics, and people are making fun of you, and you're making very little money, and it's just a chore. Like, that sounds miserable to try and push that. You'll laugh. Push that agenda, if you will. Push that style in a genre that really doesn't want it. There are not people clamoring for more stories about kind of foodie superheroes talking over there's not this big audience asking for that. The people on Twitter are like, wow, this is the best comic I've ever read. They're being served already on Webtoon and Tapas for this. They're getting what they want there. Nobody's saying, I wish the Avengers would stop fighting villains and, start talking about their emotions over brunch. Nobody is asking for that other than some crazy lunatics. I'm sorry. The only people who want that are bluntly trolling. They don't really want that. Why not? Why are you making life difficult? You're trying to do this story in a place that doesn't want it. in a place where we've seen now several years of evidence to suggest it won't survive there. Whereas you could go over to Webtoon, over time, make much more money and actually speak to the audience that would like what you're putting out there. Wouldn't that make more sense? Again, why are you making life hard for yourself? I don't know. I really, please, no condescending bullshit answers. I'm honestly curious about this because it feels like a deliberate choice to take the hardest possible route for the lowest possible gain. It's like I'm going to go out and I'm going to run a marathon. And in the months before I go run that marathon, I am going to just eat donuts and Arby's every single day. And then right the morning of the marathon, I'm going to, eat a giant bowl of deviled eggs and cheesecake and Mountain Dew. And then I'm going to go out there, and when I run, I'm going to run in cowboy boots rather than, tennis shoes. And I'm going to wear a fur coat. And that's the way I'm going to choose to run this marathon. And somebody would go, well, you've made a ton of just terrible decisions that is going to make it very hard for you to do what you do. And you say, I like adversity. It's like, yeah, but that's self-imposed stupid adversity is what you've got going on here. Why would you do this to yourself? You're making it hard for no apparent reason. That's how I view this. So please, in the comments below, let me know why don't these people go where they will be more loved, more successful, more appreciated, probably more wealthy? What's going on? Maybe you can answer that. Thanks for listening.